Shalom, Kol Haloyim, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rachak Kudash. Double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the elect. So, of course, I'm sure you've heard about this already. This is breaking news from, I guess, just last night. We're on CNN. It says Israel strikes Iran nuclear sites and military leadership as Middle East braces for retaliation. Now, this article is constantly being updated. Of course, it was updated today, June 13th. Just 5 minutes ago, 11:51. And so all of this is current. Now, there's so much news that's happening in terms of World War III. But what I like doing is coming to CNN and grabbing these specific articles because they have this little section called What's Happening Now. They just break down the meat and potatoes so you know exactly what's going on. Because a lot of sites, they just give you too many details. It's too much information and you wind up getting lost. And it's like, just tell me what's happening, right? So I want to read these 3 or 4 bullet points that they have. And so we can just get a quick understanding of what's happening. And then from there, we can tie it to what's going on or what the Bible says will be happening in these end days in terms of biblical prophecy. And that's why this is important. We're following world events, lining it up with the Bible so we can understand what time we're living in. When you understand what time you're living in, now you know what you should be doing. So the first bullet point under what's happening now says Israel attacks Iran. Israel has launched unprecedented strikes on Iran, targeting its nuclear program and military leaders in an attack that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said will last many days. Damn. Israel's military said it used 200 fighter jets, and in retaliation, Iran launched over 100 drones toward Israeli territory. So you got Israel striking Iran retaliating with over 100 drones. The second bullet point says Trump warns Iran. President Donald Trump told CNN that the U.S., of course, supports Israel in its actions. Trump warned Iran earlier today to agree to a nuclear deal before there's nothing left. Damn. Suggesting Israel's next attacks on the country could be even more brutal. So, of course, now Trump is speaking on it, saying that they're backing and they support the actions of the current state of Israel. So that's the second bullet point. Third bullet point says military leaders killed. General Hossein Salami, the commander-in-chief of Iran's Revolutionary Guard, and one of the country's most powerful figures, was killed in the attack. Damn. Major General Mohammad Bagheri, Iran's highest-ranking military officer, was also killed. Damn. Iran's foreign minister warned that Israel will deeply regret its attack, urging the UN Security Council to hold an urgent meeting. So now the third bullet point is saying you had prominent, military or revolutionary figures of Iran that were killed in Israel's attack. Fourth bullet point, nuclear targets. Netanyahu said Operation Rising Lion struck Iran's main enrichment facility in Natanz, nuclear scientists, and what he called the heart of Iran's ballistic missiles program. Yeah, so basically the fourth point is saying that these strikes were targeted. They weren't just striking random areas. They knew exactly what they were targeting. Targeted Iran's main enrichment facility, their nuclear scientists, and the heart of their ballistic missiles program. So it was a strategic and purposeful attack with intent. And of course, Trump, America, they back it, they condone it. And all of this is biblical prophecy. So now you understand the meat and potatoes of what happened. If you want to read more, of course, the article is long. There are other articles, and you can get more details if you want. But that's what's going on as of this morning. Now, why is all of this important? First and foremost, the Bible prophesies of World War III. And it's super, super obvious at this point that World War III is coming. It's coming, and it's not a if. It's most definitely a when. And that when is very soon. So Revelation 11 verse 14 basically says just that. The second woe is past. Now woe right here represents a great destruction. And the second woe, or the second great destruction, represents World War II. So the second woe is past. It's done, it's finished. World War II is past. And behold, the third woe, or the third great destruction, World War III, it says, cometh quickly. So the second woe, World War II, has passed, and World War III says it cometh quickly. And this is one of those signs right here. Obviously, this is where we're headed, with Israel striking Iran like this, striking their nuclear sites. Now you also have America saying how they back Israel, of course. That's what we expect to hear. Now, all of this makes sense because when you read this prophecy over here in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 50, all we're going to read is the last two verses. But when you read chapters 49, 50, 51, they're not talking about ancient Babylon. No, those chapters, or these chapters, they're prophecies referring to a new Babylon, which is America. And there are many, many videos that brothers have made about that. So when you come here to the last two verses in Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 45 says, therefore, hear ye the counsel of the Lord, that he hath taken against Babylon, meaning America, and his purposes, that he hath purposed against the land of the Chaldeans, which is America again. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. The least of the flock is referring to these Edomites, specifically the small hats, the people that are over in the current land of Israel right now. So you can just say the state of Israel, the Israelis. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Them is referring to these other nations that are also going to take part in World War III. It says, surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them. At the noise of the taking of Babylon, the earth is moved. And this is one of the many reasons why we know this is an end time prophecy. The noise is referring to the missiles from World War III. The taking of Babylon represents Babylon being destroyed in World War III. And it says the earth is moved. And that's going to be basically a great earthquake. The earth shaking because of how many missiles are going to be shot off and dropped. So at the noise of the taking of Babylon, America, the earth is moved. That didn't happen in the time when ancient Babylon was ruling. So this is talking about a future Babylon, which is America. At the noise of the taking of Babylon, the earth is moved, and the cry is heard among the nations. And that's literally going to happen. So we see right now that World War III was prophesied, or is prophesied, in the Bible. And now we know how it's going to kick off, how it's going to start. You're going to have the least of the flock, these small hats, these Israelis, right? And I say that specifically because we don't call ourselves Israelis. No, we're just Hebrew Israelites. That's it right there. Those two words. Big difference. So the least of the flock is going to jumpstart World War III. And you see what they're doing. Once again, I'll read it. Israel strikes Iran nuclear sites and military leadership as Middle East braces for retaliation. So things are happening right now. But before World War III kicks off, remember, there's going to come a time of Jacob's trouble, where there's going to be anarchy and basically a place with no rule, no law. It's going to be a lawless society, and that's going to be a very, very hard time. But the elect are going to be protected in that day. And around the same time, you're going to have the mark of the beast, which is the microchip, that's going to get really pushed and mandated. So those two things have to happen before the destruction of America, meaning before World War III. So if we see articles like this, which lets us know that World War III is close, that means Jacob's trouble and the microchip, which is the mark of the beast, is even closer. Now, I can't tell you, none of us can tell you when these things are going to happen, how they're going to happen, and in what manner. No, but all we can do is tell you that it's very, very close, extremely close. We're going to grab one more precept in the book of Joel, the 3rd chapter. Daniel, Isaiah, Joel, there it is. It's just verses 9 and 10. Going into World War III again, it says, "Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles. Prepare war. Wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up." So the Lord is basically preparing all these nations for World War III. It says, "Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears." So plowshares and pruning hooks are tools of agriculture. So the Lord is saying, look, no more am I going to let these nations put money and resources into agricultural tools. No, they're going to take their money, their resources, their energy, their time, their brain power into making weapons, because that's what swords and spears represent, weapons. And what weapons are they going to be using during World War III? Nuclear weapons, nuclear missiles. So beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. So all these other nations that were once looked at as inferior, not as strong in the past, didn't have nuclear capabilities. Oh, they have it now. They have it now, and they're ready, and the Lord is preparing them for World War III. So we can see, based upon articles like this and what's happening around the globe, that we're extremely close to World War III popping off, which means that Jacob's trouble and the mark of the beast, which is the microchip, is even closer. So knowing these things, now is the time, like it says, it's high time to wake up out of sleep. Right now is the time to take advantage of the opportunity that we have. You redeem the time. How do you do that? By praying as often as you can, by fasting when you know you need to be, by repenting daily and asking the Lord to increase your faith, because it's through those spiritual things that we're going to be protected during the time of Jacob's trouble. It's through those spiritual characteristics that we're going to receive salvation, when the rest of the world, they're going to be viewing and seeing and in this current World War III and seeing Babylon get destroyed. We're going to be caught up in chariots and viewing the destruction from those chariots from above. That's where we want to be. So we make these videos to say, get right with Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai right now while you have the opportunity. Not when Jacob's trouble is here. Not when World War III is here. At that point, it's damn near too late. The doors of mercy are they're gonna shut at a certain point. So that's it. That's the video. That's why we do this. Lord willing, this little report was edifying to the elect. Call Haloyim Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai Ba'ashem Rachak Wadash. Double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the elect. Shalom.